Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions, where silence speaks louder than shouting, and not every goodbye comes with a door slam. Let's just say, it begins with a countdown. There were exactly 9 things on the kitchen counter. 1 unopened bottle of wine, 2 empty glasses, 1 crooked photo frame, 1 half-burnt candle, 1 unopened envelope, 3 keys on a ring. The door hadn't opened yet, but it would. I knew it. She was standing just beyond the hallway, out of sight, probably doing that thing where she closes her eyes and practices what she's going to say like it's a movie script. Meanwhile, I was frozen, still holding the envelope I found in her gym bag, the one addressed to Nathaniel Briggs, written in her handwriting, sealed, but never sent. Spoiler, I opened it. Inside was a birthday card. Not for me. Not for her dad. For him. The guy she said was just a friend who texts too much. He turned 37 last week. I turned invisible 2 months ago. But back to the door. It wasn't locked. I could have walked out first. Beat her to it. Spared myself the spectacle of watching her leave for real. But I didn't. I stood like a prop in my own kitchen, the envelope now on the counter, the wine sweating against itself, and my heartbeat doing everything but keeping rhythm. She stepped into view. Red lipstick. Shoes I'd never seen. Hair done like she was heading to a rooftop gala, not a book club. No book in sight. Don't, I said. Not shouted. Not begged. Just said it. She tilted her head. Don't what? I wanted to scream, don't lie. Don't gaslight me. Don't wear lipstick I bought and kiss someone else with it. But instead, go ahead, I told her, nodding at the door. But the second you walk out, our marriage is over. Don't even think about coming back. She blinked. Just once. Like that small flicker was all the emotion I'd get. Then she smiled. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't soft. It was confirming. And she left. No words. No fight. Just her perfume trailing behind like it still belonged in this house. I didn't chase her. I didn't cry. I counted the seconds until the sound of her tires disappeared down the road. Then I stared at the unopened wine. Then I opened it anyway. And that was how my Tuesday night ended. Sitting across from no one, toasting to a truth I wasn't ready to drink. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I laid down, fully clothed, wine-stained shirt, crusty eyes, heart somewhere between the kitchen floor and the envelope, and stared at the ceiling like it might spell out answers. It didn't. Just shadows. Mocking shapes that looked like her back as she walked out. I counted the refrigerator hums, the streetlight flickers. My own apologies, silent ones, whispered into the dark, for not seeing it sooner. Morning came, but she didn't. I checked her side of the bed. Perfect. Smooth. As if it never needed to wrinkle for me again. Then came the real moment of impact. I walked into the kitchen, and her mug was still on the drying rack. The one with the chip on the handle. The one she said felt broken and like us. I almost laughed. Almost. I don't know why I did what I did next. Maybe I was craving proof. Something to slap me into reality, like a detective in a low-budget drama. So I grabbed her laptop. No password. Why would there be? Trust is the easiest weapon to dull. I didn't dig deep. Just enough. Her search history was surgical. Clean. But her messages? Different story. An email chain titled, "For When It's Time." Dozens of drafts. All unsent. Each one worse than the last. There was one where she listed the things she'd miss. Your dumb jokes. The way you fold towels wrong. How you always say I love you twice when you're nervous. And right beneath that, but I can't unfeel what I feel for Nathaniel. There it was. Not a bullet. A whisper. But it hit the same. I should have slammed the laptop shut. Thrown it. Burned it. But instead, I stared at her words like they might rearrange themselves if I just blinked enough. They didn't. Around noon, my phone buzzed. Fallon, can we talk? I'm outside. Outside. Like she was delivering a package. Not returning to the life she walked out of 12 hours ago. I stood in the hallway and looked at the door. The same door I told her not to cross. The same one she closed behind her with that smug little smile. I didn't move. Not at first. But I knew. The second I opened it, this wasn't about marriage anymore. This was about war. And I wasn't ready to fight. Not yet. But I was ready to listen. So I reached for the handle. When I opened the door, I half expected her to look different, like guilt would age her, or maybe her face would carry some evidence of the betrayal she so carefully kept out of reach. But she looked rested. Flushed cheeks. Lips glossed. Her hair was tied up in that careless way that always took her 30 minutes to perfect. I hated that I noticed. "Hey," she said like she forgot what she did 12 hours ago. I didn't say anything. I stepped back to let her in. The smell of her perfume hit me instantly, vanilla and jasmine. I used to love that scent. Now it reminded me of hotel rooms I'd never visited. She walked in casually, like she hadn't just detonated the core of our lives. Her heels clicked against the hardwood, echoing in the kind of silence that isn't peaceful, it's loaded. "Corbin," she said carefully, as if I was some fragile thing she might break if she touched too hard. I didn't sleep. I almost laughed. Did Nathaniel snore too much? I said it before I could stop myself. She flinched. "Good. Let her feel it. That's not fair." "You're right," I snapped. "Fair would have been you admitting what this is months ago." She looked down at her hands, fingers fidgeting. That was always her tell. She used to do that when she was nervous before job interviews or when she forgot to pay the electric bill. Now she was doing it because she knew the house of cards was collapsing. I didn't mean for this to happen. God, that sentence. That worthless, gutless sentence. As if emotions were slippery little things you could just trip into. As if Nathaniel was a pothole she accidentally stepped in. Not a man she undressed for in the middle of what used to be our time. "You know what the worst part is?" I asked. "It's not the cheating. It's how long you made me feel stupid for asking questions." She opened her mouth to speak, but stopped. That told me everything. There was no defense. Just regret wrapped in silence. "I'm not here to fight," she finally said. "I just wanted to say, I didn't walk out last night to hurt you. I walked out because I couldn't pretend anymore." So this, I gestured to the room, to the past, to all of it, was pretend. "I don't know," she whispered. "I think somewhere along the way, I just disappeared." I nodded. Not because I agreed, but because I was starting to see the truth. She'd been gone long before her body ever left the house. Fallon sat on the edge of the couch like she didn't know if she was allowed to sink in. I stood across the room, arms crossed, not because I was angry, but because if I didn't hold something, I might fall apart. She scanned the room slowly, like she was trying to remember what this house used to mean to her. Her eyes landed on the envelope. She noticed it was open. "You went through my things," she said, not with accusation, but surprise. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The silence between us had become its own language, and we were both fluent by now. She looked down and exhaled sharply. "You weren't supposed to see that." "That's the problem," I muttered. "I was never supposed to see anything, was I? Just nod, support, pay the bills, fold the towels wrong, say I love you twice." Her jaw tightened, but she didn't argue. Instead, she reached for the small bag she'd brought with her. Not the one she left with last night. That one was designer, navy blue, and stuffed with lies. This one was smaller, worn, leather fading at the edges. Something about it felt too personal, too intentional. "I brought something," she said. I blinked. "Is this supposed to be a peace offering?" She pulled out a folded piece of paper. I thought it might be another letter to Nathaniel. It wasn't. It was a lease agreement. Her name on it. Dated 3 weeks ago. "You plan to leave?" I asked. My voice cracked. "Before all this." She nodded slowly. "I just didn't know how to say it." "You could have started with the truth." Fallon swallowed hard. "Corbin, I didn't leave last night to be with Nathaniel. That ended. Weeks ago." I almost laughed. "So I'm just getting the delayed broadcast?" "I didn't come back to fix us," she said, voice trembling now. "I came back to let you know I'm not pretending anymore. And I'm not hiding anymore either." She stood up, holding the lease with both hands like it was proof of something, that she was finally choosing herself, or maybe just trying to clean up the wreckage. But then something caught my eye. A keychain clipped to her bag. It wasn't hers. It was mine. From college. The one I thought I lost 5 years ago. She noticed me staring. "I never got rid of it," she whispered. And just like that, the rage inside me took on a different shape, confusion. Because if she kept that, why did she throw everything else away? Fallon didn't say anything after that. She just stood there holding the lease in one hand and my old keychain in the other, like they were pieces of different lives she wasn't sure how to reconcile. I stayed still, trying to connect the dots, but nothing made sense anymore. If Nathaniel was out of the picture weeks ago, then what exactly had she been doing every time she said she was working late? Was there someone else after him? Or worse, before? I didn't ask. Not because I didn't want to know, but because I was starting to understand something worse than betrayal, ambiguity. That heavy, slow poison where you never get the full truth, only pieces. And those pieces haunt you more than answers ever could. Fallon sat back down slowly, this time leaning into the couch like she didn't care if she was welcome or not. Her fingers ran along the stitching on a pillow she used to insist we never actually use. I watched her eyes scan the room again, stopping at one specific spot, the bookshelf. She got up and walked over to it. Second shelf. Behind the row of mystery novels she never finished. She reached behind them and pulled out something I hadn't seen in years, a tiny red photo album. One of those cheap ones you buy at gas stations on road trips and never get around to filling. Except this one was filled. She handed it to me. I came back to give you this too. Inside were pictures I never knew existed. Me asleep on the couch, laughing at the dog park, fixing a broken light bulb, washing dishes. All candid. All from angles I didn't think anyone cared enough to capture. But she did. Fallon, the same woman who walked out that door last night without hesitation, had once taken photos of me in quiet, forgotten moments. I didn't know whether to be angry or shattered. You took these? I asked, turning the pages slowly. I used to think you were most beautiful when you didn't know I was watching. That line hit like glass under bare feet. So what changed? I whispered. She looked down at her lap. I stopped looking. I closed the album. My hands were shaking. And then, as if some cruel twist of timing couldn't resist, her phone buzzed. It was face up on the coffee table. The name on the screen wasn't Nathaniel. It was Samantha, 3 hearts next to it. And just like that, a brand new fracture split the air between us. She didn't flinch when the name popped up, didn't hide the screen, didn't reach to silence the buzzing. It just sat there, face up, vibrating like a tiny truth bomb, and Fallon stared at it like it didn't belong to her. But I saw the tension in her shoulders. Micro, controlled, calculated. 3 hearts. Samantha, not Nathaniel, not even a guy. And suddenly, everything I thought I understood about her betrayal shattered into 1,000 new pieces I wasn't ready to gather. I'm not going to ask, I said, even though my voice cracked like dry wood. Fallon picked up the phone slowly, tapped once, then locked the screen. It's not what you think, she said in a voice that told me it absolutely was. I stood frozen. Every version of this woman I thought I knew was slipping through my fingers. First the affair, then the emotional exit, and now this new name. One that didn't fit any of the old lies I had built my anger around. How long? I asked quietly. She looked up. Her eyes were bloodshot, but she hadn't cried. A year, she said. A year. You cheated on me. With Samantha? For a year? The sentence felt ridiculous coming out of my mouth. I didn't cheat, she replied too quickly. It didn't start like that. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because reality had officially passed absurd. Then explain it to me, Fallon. Explain how sneaking off for late-night drinks, sending hearts to someone behind my back, and lying to my face is not cheating. Her voice dropped. Because with Samantha, I didn't have to disappear to feel like myself. And that crushed me in a way Nathaniel never could. I never told you, she continued, because I didn't want you to think you were the reason I changed. I shook my head slowly. You changed quietly. You changed with secrets. I would have rather heard the truth when it was still small enough to forgive. She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again. I could see the panic behind her calm expression, not fear of being caught, but fear of not being understood. And I hated that a part of me still wanted to understand her. I didn't come here to break you more, she whispered. No, I said, stepping back. You came here to clean your conscience. But you forgot something. She blinked. What? You don't get to be the victim in a story you set on fire. Fallon didn't try to defend herself anymore. She just sat there, hands folded in her lap, like a child waiting to be scolded. But I wasn't angry in the way I thought I would be. I was numb, completely wrung out from all the revelations. Nathaniel, Samantha, the lease, the photo album, the keychain. Every piece she gave me felt like another quiet confession that she'd already lived an entire parallel life, while I was still pouring 2 cups of coffee every morning. I left her sitting in the living room and walked upstairs. Not to storm off, I just needed space to breathe. When I got to our bedroom, I stood in the doorway for a moment, unsure if it was even ours anymore. Then I noticed something wedged under the edge of the dresser. A folded piece of yellow paper, torn on one side. I picked it up. It was a letter, dated 3 months ago, addressed to me. Corbin, if you're reading this, Then I never had the courage to hand it to you. My chest tightened. I met someone. I didn't mean to. It just happened. She makes me feel vivid again. That doesn't mean I stopped loving you. It just means I started losing myself somewhere along the way, and you didn't see it. Maybe I didn't let you. I sat down on the bed, paper trembling in my hands. You were always kind. Too kind. You made me tea even when I snapped at you. You rubbed my back when I pretended to be asleep just to avoid talking. And I hated how good you were to me because it reminded me of how far I'd drifted. I don't expect forgiveness. I just hope you'll someday believe that my leaving wasn't because of something you lacked, but because of something I buried. There was no signature, no final line, just the unfinished truth staring back at me. I didn't cry. I just sat there for a long time, staring at a dresser drawer that hadn't held her things in weeks. And for the first time, I realized something brutally clear. Fallon hadn't come back to save us. She came back to bury what was left. And she wanted me to help dig the grave. When I came back downstairs, Fallon was standing at the bookshelf again, flipping through that same photo album like it could somehow rewrite the past. She didn't look up when I entered. I don't think she could. Maybe she thought I'd scream. Maybe she wanted me to. But I didn't. I'd already fought every silent battle this house had to offer. I found your letter, I said, holding it gently like a leaf that would fall apart if I squeezed too hard. She nodded, eyes still on a photo of me half smiling at a barbecue we never even talked about after. I never meant to leave it behind. But you did, I said. And maybe that's the most honest thing you've done lately. She finally met my eyes. Are you going to hate me forever? I exhaled. No, that would mean you still get to take up space in my heart. And I'm done giving you more than what's already lost. There was no dramatic goodbye, no slamming doors. She walked to the front, opened it slowly this time, and gave one last glance, not of regret, but understanding. We were finished. A week later, I rearranged the entire living room, got rid of the pillows she obsessed over, donated the wine glasses we never used. I started eating dinner at the kitchen island instead of the table, just to feel like the house was mine again. I'm not healed, but I'm healing. I started writing again. Nothing fancy, just thoughts, observations, the kind of things I used to bottle up. And last night, I laughed, actually laughed, while watching some dumb video about a guy in the 1800s who tried to ride a moose into town like a horse. For once, the laugh didn't feel borrowed. I'm not saying betrayal doesn't leave scars. It does. But maybe scars are just proof that you survived something sharp and still chose to walk forward. And I did. Without her. But not without hope. Thanks for following this journey to the end. Tell us in the comments. What's a moment in history that reminded you the world keeps moving, no matter what breaks? You've been watching Reddit Confessions, where stories hurt, heal, and sometimes surprise you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your voice below.